Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, it has been revealed a COVID-positive teenager in Launceston's northern suburbs broke quarantine orders after arriving in the state from high-risk Melbourne. The 15-year-old boy leaving home with his cousin during his infectious period. For more, our reporter Josh Duggan joins us from Newnham. Josh, where did the teenager go?
Kim, after touching down in the state on Friday, the teenager visited the Newnham IGA on Saturday afternoon. The supermarket's been deemed an exposure site between 2:20 and 2:45. The Department of Health are now trying to contact anyone who they believe may have been at the store, which they say is around 100 people. The shopkeeper who served the boy has already been put into isolation, as have 2 people who visited the teenager's home on Friday night where he was quarantining. Despite today's news, Public Health has deemed the risk to the community as low.
Our understanding is that this person spent only a few minutes at this public site and then returned to their place of residence.
Testing capacity is being scaled up in Launceston, while residents in the northern suburbs are being urged to watch for any COVID symptoms and get tested if they appear. As for the boy, he's still in the Fountainside Medi Hotel, with doctors saying he's clinically well. Kim?
Tasmanian power prices are now among the lowest in the country, putting the government ahead of its target. But there are calls from the opposition for more to be done to help bring down the cost of living in other areas.
Business down because of border closures, leaving restaurants working hard to keep the lights on.
Electricity is definitely a necessity that we can't avoid.
In July, small businesses received an 11% drop in their power prices. For households, that figure was 7%.
Annual electricity bills, obviously in the thousands. So any percentage that we can save on that is definitely going to help.
It's now been revealed where that leaves Tasmania's prices compared to the rest of the country.
I'm really pleased to advise that Tasmanians now have either the lowest or amongst the lowest regulated power prices in Australia.
The government now ahead of its target to have the lowest regulated electricity prices.
But there's still more work to do, and we're going to continue our efforts to keep downward pressure on electricity prices.
But the opposition says more needs to be done to bring down the cost of living.
We know that wages aren't rising as quickly as things like power bills, private rents, mortgages and other cost of living pressures.
With those pressures, we do know that older people are acutely aware of the amount of energy that they use.
The Council of the Ageing says it's crucial electricity literacy is improved in Tasmania. Many older Tasmanians going to bed early to avoid using power.
So that's the type of thing that people will do to limit their costs. But if they're better informed about ways that they can reduce costs, that may not be necessary for them.
Meg Signed, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian MPs are doubling down on their calls for political donation disclosure limits to be lowered to $1,000, down from the state government's suggested $5,000. Independent Meg Webb says a number of entities, including gaming and property development, should also be banned from donating altogether.
If we put this ban in place, what we will see is the Tasmanian people never having to question, has an industry purchased a financial outcome for itself in Tasmania?
We're hoping that Labor will flex its muscle upstairs, work with the independents, and then the government can decide how they feel about that amended legislation when it gets back down to the House of Assembly.
Submissions on the draft bill closed last week. A coroner who investigated the death of a Glengarry man has found there were faults with the tractor he was on. Robert Selby was crushed by the vehicle while unloading hay bales in 2018. The neutral switch on Mr Selby's tractor was disengaged, while a brake locking pin was also missing. Coroner Andrew McKee has recommended all tractor operators comply with WorkSafe's safe use recommendations. Launceston Christmas Carnival organisers have unveiled their plan to rejuvenate the annual event. They're hoping Madison events and national championship elimination races can bring the sports superstars to Tasmania.
It's the pinnacle of track cycling, and the Madison is coming back to the Launceston Carnival.
On the inside, Gilmore in the middle, and Matthew Gilmore takes out the final sprint.
The daring events see teams of 2 compete, slinging each other into action. Men's, women's and junior races to be held on a second day of the Launceston program, as well as an elimination race national championship.
This opportunity now to actually have a second day, it's just gold to us because it's going to bring riders to the carnivals.
Tasmania has an extensive history, producing greats like Danny Clark and Matt Gilmore, while Georgia Baker competed in the Tokyo Olympics Madison. The Launceston City Cycling Club has extensive memorabilia from the days where 6-day Madisons were the biggest show in town.
I believe this is the coat that the old commissaires would have worn in Tasmanian International Velodrome.
Looking to rekindle the magic of the carnivals, the community is reeling after the cancellation of the Latrobe event.
There's been a lot of criticism in the last number of years about rider numbers, and there's no question about it, we're struggling. But we're doing things here in Tassie to try and increase our track riders.
With new events on the calendar, it's hoped even more of the nation's top track cyclists, including Olympians, will make the trip down for the summer carnivals.
It's been a little while since we've had some really high-end kind of athletes there.
A veteran of the Carnival series, Lauren Perry will be racing and encouraging her Australian cycling team peers to compete.
It would be really cool to see it grow, and hopefully this year it gets off to a good start.
The new event to take place on December 30. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
More Tasmanians living with disabilities have been given a roof over their head as a program for affordable housing opens another home. Service provider Possibility says independent living is crucial for young people who often fall through the cracks.
These housemates checking out their new digs, a relief for Aidan after spending months trying to find supported accommodation.
You're really happy, aren't you? You've been bringing your siblings and showing them, where he's going to be living and get more independence. Makes it easier on us as parents too.
After having to leave his last rental property, the 27-year-old all ready to move in next week.
Well, we did say that you might have to move home, and you don't want to do that, do you? Because you want to be independent. And if you can't find a place, how can you be independent?
Pack up and ready to go.
You're packed up and ready to go.
The Berrydale shared unit, housing 2 people, leased by disability service provider Possibility.
There's lots of investment in specialist accommodation for more people with more complex needs, but the real gap is particularly for young people and accommodation that focuses on independence. It's an area where people fall through the cracks.
One of 11 homes built or nearing completion by the supported Affordable Accommodation Trust, designed to suit that independent living.
There's things like side opening ovens, induction hot plates. All the lights are 12-volt LED lights which should never need changing. And when you walk in here, every entrance has a level access.
Also saying Tasmania needs hundreds more support homes, especially outside the cities.
Move them to Hobart or Launceston so you've got, a round trip of a day. Take them away from their social networks and their friends. And we'd like to build the next lot of houses in rural and regional Tasmania where the greatest need is.
Ruby Kamane, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's construction industry has recognised and celebrated the state's young workers. The 2021 Civil Trainee of the Year Award jointly presented to Harley Manny and Nellie Taylor, with the Civil Contractors Federation pushing for more women to consider construction as a career.
A big part of our program for the next year is to try and encourage more women to take up roles, and so by recognising them in this form is a great achievement.
The Federation is aiming to increase the number of women in construction by 25%. Australia's world-leading push to ban mining in Antarctica came into force 30 years ago today, with conservationists labelling it the late Bob Hawke's greatest legacy. Now we're set to know more about the frozen continent thanks to a funding splash for scientific research.
The conservation blanket laid over the continent in 1991 banned mining for at least 50 years. Activists were already at war over appalling environmental practices taking place at existing research stations. So when Antarctica became seen as mining's next frontier, Australia, under Bob Hawke, pushed back.
Bob faced considerable opposition, both when he went and spoke to Margaret Thatcher and George Bush Sr. Both of them listened politely but said there's really nothing that can be done.
Australia worked closely with France to finally overcome the bitter resistance.
30 years ago, they recognised just how critical Antarctica was to science.
I had the belief that ultimately good sense has got to prevail.
Now the Antarctic Science Foundation is tipping nearly $2 million into its research program, named in Bob Hawke's honour.
We back tenacious people to go and ask the questions of Antarctica that will ultimately underpin our future way of life.
Their focus frozen on the Southern Ocean, marine life and climate change.
And get those answers back that will ultimately ensure our sustainable life on this planet.
There are so many secrets to be unlocked that are really critical in terms of ensuring that we have the right science to support humanity to survive and thrive into the future.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Colourful and vibrant teams are gearing up to embark on a 5-day tour around Tasmania for charity. The Regine's roller, just one of 15 entrants hitting the road for the 30th annual Tasbash, on track to raise $300,000 for Variety Tasmania to support children who are sick, disadvantaged or living with disabilities.
We get together, go for a drive and visit regional schools where we grant them much needed equipment to enhance the education experience for their kids.
Engines start on October 16.
The Opals have claimed bronze at the Asia Cup. The Australians defeated Korea 88-55 in the third place playoff in Jordan. Launceston Tornadoes forward Keely Froling bagged 10 points for the national side. The Opals finished the Asia Cup with 4 wins and 2 losses. Tasmania's under-16 boys have shown nerves of steel at the Australian Junior Championships in Darwin. Down by 1 against Western Australia, Lockie May was fouled with less than a second on the clock. After sinking both free throws, Tasmania had the bronze medal locked away. The final score 58-57. Targa Tasmania has been pushed back by 7 weeks in a bid to outmanoeuvre COVID rules. Racing was meant to start on March 8, but organisers have moved it to late April in the hope pandemic restrictions will be eased by then. The 30th running of Targa Tasmania will see teams spend 3 nights in Launceston and 2 in Strawn before finishing in Hobart. Railton's Jonty Reinders wrapped up the Barry Richardson Memorial Grass Track Series after winning Yolla's King of the Paddock ahead of Seaton Broomhall and Kyron Bacon. Tate Young had the edge over Callum Penny in the juniors, claiming the 85A and junior light classes. The final round of racing is coming up at Sprent near Devonport.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the extended weather team for filling in during my recent detox retreat. Apparently they all did a fantastic job. Back to the old boring way now. Launceston, Burnie and Devonport recorded 16 today, while Hobart reached 18, but it wasn't the warmest. Friendly Beaches with 19 the highest today after Lyawini dropped to 1 overnight. St Helens Grove and Bushy Park 18, Strawn 17, Smithton and Flinders Island 16, King Island 15 degrees. There was low-level cloud containing showers that sat mainly over the north and parts of the south today. To 3 p.m, the top rainfall was 29 millimetres at Mount Barrow. A fair portion of the southeast of the nation found that low cloud, some cloud over the far north of the country, and the next frontal band well to the southwest of WA. Tomorrow, the low sits near our west coast as a trough moves over the state. The high wedges behind that ahead of the next cold front. Northwesterly winds shifting west-southwesterly at 20 to 30 knots. Swells picking up to 5 metres in western waters. With the windy weather, we have a gale warning. That's from Sandy Cape to St Helens Point. A strong wind warning from Low Rocky Point to Sandy Cape, along with Bank Strait and Franklin Sound. Tuesday in Hobart, showers increasing, a top of 17, 16 for Adventure Bay, showers also for Tarraleah, 2 overnight, 13 the top. Launceston 19 with a shower or 2 clearing, 16 the high for Devonport, a showery day, a windy one for Bridport with a shower or 2 and 16 degrees. Burnie a high of 15 with showers, getting windy for Strawn, 14 in the west and 13 the top for Marrawar. And for St Helens tomorrow, showers and 17, a shower or 2 for Swansea, same number there, and 15 the top for Whitemark. And we have the UV. Now the daylight saving time is on. It's a moderate 5 across the state. On Wednesday, mostly fine and sunny over the east, with showers clearing the south before redeveloping over the west. Showers heading into Thursday, along with snow to 800 metres, cool southwesterly winds as well. Showers over the west and far south on Friday, extending across the north late morning before pushing over the rest of the state. A shower or 2 in Perth tomorrow. Sunny weather for Adelaide, a morning shower for Melbourne. Sunny in Sydney, 30 degrees expected in Brisbane. Cairns and Darwin 33. And cloudy conditions at the moment, 14 in Hobart, 13 in Launceston, Devonport currently 12 degrees. Now Kim, during my sabbatical I have completely reset my attitude and I now have a great appreciation for all those that I work with. I'm also hoping that this feeling passes so I can get back to my old self really quickly.
Yeah, we have had a lovely holiday too, Murph. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. That's all we have time for tonight. We're back later with updates. Good night.